All living organisms require energy for various life processes, whether it is absorption, transport, movement, or reproduction. But where does this energy come from? This energy is derived from the oxidation of macromolecules, commonly known as food. In green plants and cyanobacteria, food is produced through photosynthesis, where light energy is trapped and converted into chemical energy, stored in carbohydrates like glucose, sucrose, and starch. But not all plant cells can perform photosynthesis, only those that contain chloroplasts, usually in the outer layers. So, what about non photosynthetic parts of the plant? These parts, such as roots, stems, and non-green tissues, depend on the translocation of food from photosynthetic cells, and they extract energy through a process called cellular respiration. However, the real question is, how is this energy extracted and utilized by the cell? Let us now explore what cellular respiration is and how it helps in energy release and utilization in plant cells. Cellular respiration is the process of breaking down food molecules within the cell to release energy. This energy is captured in the form of ATP, which stands for adenosine triphosphate, the energy currency of the cell. In plants, while photosynthesis occurs in the chloroplasts, respiration takes place in the cytoplasm and the mitochondria. The process releases energy and also produces carbon skeletons, which are used as building blocks to make other important molecules in the cell. The compounds that are oxidized during respiration are called respiratory substrates. While carbohydrates are the most commonly oxidized, proteins, fats, and organic acids can also be used, especially under specific conditions. It is important to note that the energy is not released all at once, but in a series of slow, enzyme-controlled steps. This allows the energy to be efficiently trapped in ATP instead of being lost as heat. The ATP produced is later broken down whenever and wherever the cell needs energy. Now, we know that plants do not move or breathe like animals. So a natural question arises. How do plants exchange gases necessary for respiration? Unlike animals, plants do not have specialized respiratory organs. Instead, they rely on structures like stomata and lenticels for gas exchange. Each plant part, roots, stems, and leaves, manages its own gas exchange, and since the overall rate of respiration is low, there is minimal need for long-distance gas transport. Also, during photosynthesis, oxygen is produced internally, so availability is not a major issue. In large plants, gases diffuse easily because living cells are located near the surface, and lenticels in woody stems provide access to air. The loosely packed parenchyma cells in leaves, stems, and roots create an interconnected airspace network, ensuring that most plant cells are in contact with air. This is why plants do not require specialized organs for respiration. Let us now look at how glucose is broken down during respiration. In complete combustion, glucose is broken down into carbon dioxide and water, releasing energy, mostly as heat. But in plant cells, this breakdown happens gradually, in steps, so that some of the energy is captured as ATP. During respiration, oxygen is utilized, while carbon dioxide, water, and energy are released. However, what happens when oxygen is not available? Can respiration still occur? Let us find out. Some cells live in environments where oxygen is limited or absent. The first cells on Earth lived in such oxygen-poor conditions. Many modern organisms have adapted to these environments. They may be facultative anaerobes or obligate anaerobes. Interestingly, all living organisms retain the machinery to partially break down glucose without oxygen through a process called glycolysis. Glycolysis, meaning sugar splitting, occurs in the cytoplasm of all living cells. It is the only respiratory process in anaerobic organisms. This process was discovered by Gustav Emden, Otto Meroff, and J. Parnas. Let us explore the detailed steps of glycolysis. We start with a molecule of glucose, a 6-carbon sugar. The enzyme hexokinase catalyzes the phosphorylation of glucose, using one molecule of ATP to form glucose 6-phosphate, a 6-carbon compound. This step is irreversible and traps the glucose molecule inside the cell. Next, glucose 6-phosphate is converted into fructose 6-phosphate, catalyzed by the enzyme phosphoglucose isomerase. The structure changes from an aldose form to a ketose form, but the number of carbons remains 6. Fructose 6-phosphate undergoes another phosphorylation, using one more molecule of ATP, catalyzed by the enzyme phosphofructokinase 1. This forms fructose 1,6-bisphosphate. Now, the enzyme aldolase splits fructose 1,6-bisphosphate into two 3-carbon molecules, glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate and dihydroxyacetone phosphate. These two triose phosphates are interconvertible, catalyzed by triose phosphate isomerase. Ultimately, both molecules are converted into glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate. Glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate is then oxidized and phosphorylated by the enzyme glyceraldehyde 3-phosphate dehydrogenase. This reaction forms 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate and simultaneously produces one molecule of NADH plus a hydrogen ion. Each molecule of 1,3-bisphosphoglycerate donates a phosphate group to ADP, forming one molecule of ATP. This is catalyzed by phosphoglycerate and kinase results in the production of 3-phosphoglycerate. 3-phosphoglycerate is then rearranged to form 2-phosphoglycerate, catalyzed by the enzyme phosphoglycerate mutase. 2-phosphoglycerate undergoes dehydration, removal of a water molecule, catalyzed by enolase, leading to the formation of phosphenol pyruvate. In the final step, phosphenol pyruvate donates its phosphate group to ADP, forming another molecule of ATP and producing pyruvic acid. This reaction is catalyzed by pyruvate kinase. Thus, we get two molecules of pyruvic acid at the end of glycolysis. Note, the enzymes mentioned are not included in the NCERT syllabus but are provided here to enhance your knowledge. Now that glycolysis is complete, what happens to pyruvic acid? Its metabolic fate depends on cellular needs, following one of three major pathways: lactic acid fermentation, alcoholic fermentation, or aerobic respiration. For complete oxidation of glucose to carbon dioxide and water, organisms use the Krebs cycle, also called aerobic respiration, which requires oxygen. Fermentation occurs under anaerobic conditions in many prokaryotes and unicellular eukaryotes. In yeast, incomplete oxidation of glucose occurs under anaerobic conditions, converting pyruvic acid to carbon dioxide and ethanol. This process is catalyzed by pyruvic acid decarboxylase and alcohol dehydrogenase. Some bacteria convert pyruvic acid to lactic acid. Similarly, in animal muscle cells during exercise when oxygen is inadequate, pyruvic acid is reduced to lactic acid by lactate dehydrogenase. In both processes, NADH plus H plus serves as the reducing agent and is reoxidized to NAD plus, maintaining the redox balance necessary for glycolysis to continue. Fermentation releases less than 7% of the energy in glucose, and not all of it is trapped as ATP. The net ATP synthesis is minimal when one molecule of glucose is fermented to alcohol or lactic acid. Additionally, these processes produce potentially hazardous byproducts, either acid or alcohol. Yeasts poison themselves to death when alcohol concentration reaches about 13%, limiting natural fermentation. Less than 7% of glucose energy is released during fermentation, making it an inefficient energy-yielding process. Only 2 ATP molecules are produced per glucose molecule during fermentation, compared to much higher yields in aerobic respiration. This concludes our first part of the journey through plant respiration. We've learned how energy is obtained, what glycolysis is, and how pyruvic acid takes different paths depending on oxygen. In the next video, we'll dive deeper into what happens in aerobic respiration, the complete oxidation of glucose. We hope that you have understood the topic. You can now study chapter notes, watch video lectures and solve MCQ tests of this chapter on EduRev to ensure you score well in your exams. And that's not all. You also get amazing courses for maths, science, English, Hindi, and much more for NEET. Thank you.